Hi friends, today we are going to talk about weaving. Weaving is something that I find really fun, but also kind of instantly satisfying, which seems like a nice thing in these difficult times when we are spending so much time at home together. Now, when we talk about weaving, usually people weave with textiles such as yarn or different kinds of fabric. But I'm going to suggest that for our youngest weavers at home, we start weaving with just paper strips. And guess what? Maybe you don't have a fancy loom at home. You can make one out of a box of cookies. I don't know who ate these cookies. Maybe the cat. Anyways, I'm going to turn this cookie box into a loom. Now, of course, a grown-up will have to do this part because it involves cutting through cardboard, which usually takes grown-up scissors. But grown-ups, I always just start with one cut in the center, and then I half that, and 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 then I end up with a bunch of strips. Now, if you're wondering why there's X's and O's on the ends of my strips, I'll tell you. When it comes to weaving, there are two magic words that you have to keep in mind. Over, under, over, under, over, under, over, under. That's the thing. You just go over and under, over and over again. That's what weaving is about. So because over under is an A-B pattern, or it switches every other one, sometimes drawing a reminder on each strip, like two different symbols or letters they recognize, can be very helpful. Here's one I already started. I marked it with hearts that are right side up and hearts that are right upside down. And you can use paper strips that are, well, this is kind of fancy paper, I guess, that I had in my art studio, but you can use junk mail. Junk mail makes really good weaving material, especially if it's as thick as a postcard and a little bit stiffer than regular paper. And again, this one is already done, showing you how I went over, under, over, under, over, under with my strips of paper, but now I'll give you a clearer how-to. Now, it might be a little challenging for your kiddo when they start, but believe me, the pattern makes it a lot easier for them to sort of get it stuck in their heads, and it becomes a very satisfying sort of experience for them. Now, the reason we do these strips for the beginning weaver, on a regular loom, I'll talk about this one later, the yarn is attached at both ends. You can't really pick them all the way up. And I think this makes it a little easier for beginning weavers because they can pick these all the way up if they need to. So here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna go over this one, then I'm gonna pick this one up and go under it. Then I'll go over this one, pick this one up, and go under it. And I do that all the way across. Now I'm going faster than a new learner might go. Okay, here's a trick to make it a little bit easier. If you want to help at first, you can use something like a pencil or a tongue depressor, and you can flip the strips up for your kiddo. Talk together and say, let's see, last time we went over this one, and weaving is about opposites, guys. Over and under are opposites, right? And each row of your weaving, you're going to go the opposite way. So if I went over this strip last time, I'm going to go under it this time. If I went under this strip last time, I'm going to go over it this time. So each row is the opposite of the row before. So grown-ups, if you work with your kiddo and kind of put something through, talking it through together, like this, that can help them to be able to more easily put their strip in, and then they pull the pencil out and whoa, it's like perfect. But guess what? Perfect is not really our goal. If you have a beginning weaver, they are going to mess up sometimes. Sometimes they're going to do the same as the row before. That's a common mistake. Now that's a mistake you can see because when they're right next to each other, you can say, that's not the opposite. But again, maybe you have a few mistakes. Maybe they get experimental and they figure out, hey, I can weave a strip going this other way and just be all crazy. You can do that. You can have strips that go diagonal and look kind of weird. That's okay. This is still kind of an interesting pattern and kind of fun to look at. The best thing about these cardboard looms is you can kind of shake them out when you mess up and you can just start all over again. So that's how you can practice weaving with paper and all recycled stuff like mail and a box of cookies or cereal. Now, I also like to make cardboard looms. I pulled this one out earlier. These were pieces of cardboard that came in some package that I ordered, and I looked at them and I thought, that might make a good loom. And indeed, it does. So grown-ups, again, you might want to help with this cutting step with a very young child. Again, I'm going to start right in the center and snip, and then go in the center of that and the center of that, and so on and so forth. I could just stop there and not get too close to the edges. Maybe I'll do that on this one, and I'll have a few less strings on my warp. What's my warp, you say? Well, it just so happens weaving, weaving starts with a W, and two words that go with weaving start with W also. That's the warp and the weft. The warp are the strings that go up and down vertically. The weft is what you are weaving horizontally across. Wow, 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 W words. Okay, so now maybe you have yarn at home. This is just a weird collection of yarn that I had in the house. Certainly you can weave with yarn. If you have some kind of fabric like polar fleece, which for some reason a lot of us have a lot of if we're crafty, you can cut it into strips, and they're kind of stretchy and springy and really soft, so they're a great material to weave with. Or again, any kind of yarn. But maybe you're saying, oh no, Allison, we don't have any yarn. Now what am I gonna do? Well, fear not. I'm going to show you how to weave with t-shirts. Yeah, that's right, t-shirts. This weaving right here, made out of t-shirts. I started with an old buzzword t-shirt that I had. I got paint on it, so I knew I wasn't going to wear it anymore. So I started cutting strips off of it to make some purple weaving material. But I'm going to show you step by step how to do it with this t-shirt that I got for free at a Pirates game a long time ago. Okay, so what you want to do is spread your t-shirt out, and you're going to cut it across in strips. Now, because there's a seam with some extra stitching on the bottom, I usually cut the bottom part off. So I'm just going to cut all the way across and do that. I'm using grown-up scissors because I'm a grown-up, but in my experience, most kid scissors will cut through t-shirts just fine. Now, the trick is keep your strips thick enough. I usually say 2 fingers thick. So I lay my 2 fingers down to see how thick a strip I want to cut. Now, I'm cutting kind of messy. Look at that. What a mess. Those edges aren't straight. Guess what? It doesn't matter, because after I cut it, look at that. It's a circle. And then I'm going to use my muscles and stretch it out. Wow. When you stretch it, it kind of curls up, and it's like a t-shirt noodle that's ready for you to weave with. All you need to do is cut it open and you've got a nice long string to weave with. The sleeves can also give you pieces to weave with. Cut that seam off again, 2 fingers wide, cut across, doesn't matter if you're messy, and pull it with your muscles. And look at that. Now, sometimes if your t-shirt has printing on it, that part won't be as soft. So maybe you don't use that part of the shirt, or maybe you like those little colors peeking through. That's okay with me. All right, so hold on. Let me get my black t-shirt string out of here. Now, I already started this loom here, and I started weaving with my purple t-shirt string. But remember how we cut the notches here? I want to show you how you put on the warp yarn first, or t-shirt yarn. I'm going to go in between 2 of these teeth like that. And the cardboard sort of keeps it there. And then I'm going to go all the way down to the bottom and go around the first tooth. Whoop, that's okay. On the bottom. Then I'm going to come all the way up and go around this tooth up top. And you see, you just go back and forth like that. I didn't even tape this one down on the back where I started or where I end. It doesn't really matter, but let's do that thing they do in cooking shows where we skip ahead and pretend that we've been weaving for a long time together. Okay, so as I was saying, you're going over, under, and that's what I did right here with my purple string. Now, I'm going to start with the black because I want to do a striped pattern on this. So no matter where I stopped, I can look and say, looks like last time, look real closely, I went over this one. So I'm going to start by going under it, then over this one, then under this one, and I pull it all the way through. And I always leave a little tail so I can just sort of tuck that behind later. Now I'm going to come back in this direction. I went over this first one last time, so this time, did you guess? Yeah, you're right. I'm going to go under it. Over this one, under this one. Now when you pull your string through, be careful you don't pull too tightly. What happened to my nice straight up and down lines when I did that? Yeah, that's right. They squeezed together and got kind of slanty or diagonal. So keep checking that your lines are still straight up and down, and that means you're not squeezing too tight. Over last time, so this time I go under and under. Now, it might be easier if you had some kind of like needle to work with. In a weaving kit that I bought, it came with this cool needle, which is giant wooden needle, and that works really well. But again, you might say, Allison, I don't have a fancy needle like that. That's okay, because that's when our cardboard box can help us again. I'm going to take the top part of our loom off and show you. You can cut a needle. Sometimes I use cardboard. Sometimes I use the plastic lid of a margarine or something that I can cut through, and I make a needle out of that. I put an eye in my needle. Look at that. So now I have a needle, if that makes it easier for your kiddo to be able to manipulate the yarn. So now I went over last time. What am I going to do? That's right, go under, because that's the opposite. Over this one, under this one. And then I pull through, but not too tight. I can use my fingers kind of like they're a comb to push it down. And I can keep weaving all the way up. Now, let me show you some things that you might want to do with this when you're done. I made a t-shirt weaving bracelet. Here it is. And yeah, those ends that stick out, well, I kind of tuck them under other strings on the inside so my edges look nice. And then I sewed some buttons on here, and it's kind of a weird but cool bracelet. But you can do other things with this too. I'll show you that how to get it off of the loom, because that's kind of an important part, and you usually need a grown-up's help with that. So let me just show you one that is already partway off the loom. like magic. We'll switch, okay? So this is a weaving I was doing with strips of a cashmere sweater that got shrunk in the wash. It's so soft. I love to touch it. I already took one half of it off. Now I'm going to show you how to take the other half. Remember how we looped behind those teeth? So you're just going to pull those loops right off. And sometimes you can leave them as loops, and that can be what you hang your weaving from. Like I tied them off at the bottom, but maybe at the top, I want to leave them as loops, and I want to just hang my weaving like that. You can see one that I did that way. I made a hook out of a pipe cleaner to hang it somewhere, and I hung it on a painted stick by those same loops. But sometimes you want to tie off both ends. So here's what you do. A grown-up has to help with this. You cut that loop right in half and you make a double knot. This is after you take it off the loom so carefully. Now, grown-ups, maybe you're thinking, ugh, I don't want to help with that part. I've got too much to do. Well, let me give you some advice. Make a bigger loom and they will weave longer before this step ever happens. Use a pizza box and make a really big loom. It can even be as big as a small rug for your house and have all the kids help. So I just tied double knots, and now wait, what's this guy doing? He's all by himself. All of these were loops and they had someone to tie off to. Well, don't worry, just tie him off to this last one in a double knot. So now maybe I can use that as a little coaster in my house to set something on. Or again, maybe I want to find a way to hang it on the wall. I just poked a pencil through it, okay? Anyways, I want to show you one last thing. Remember when I showed you my painted stick? Well, I went a little crazy with the stick weaving. Are you ready for this, guys? I wove on this stick that I found in my yard. And it kind of turned out looking like two clouds and a rainbow because I did this fringe. I'm going to show you up close. There were two places I wove on this string. Anywhere there's a Y on a stick, you can sort of make a place to weave. That's my warp going up and down. That's my weft that I wove over, under, over, under. I even wove some sage into this so it smells yummy, some dried out sage. You can find things in your yard and weave them in. And it's really fun to experiment with weaving on different shapes. So you can weave on a stick, you can weave on a cardboard loom, you can even use a cardboard needle to help you out. Okay, maybe you're saying now, Allison, that is so cool, but guess what? I don't have any yarn and my mom won't let me cut any t-shirts up. Well, that's okay because I've got one more trick up my sleeve. I'm going to show you how to weave with plastic bags. Can you believe it? We have a book that we're recommending that goes along with this video, and in the book, the little girl finds out how to weave with plastic bags. Check this out. This is a weaving made with plastic bags. Once I make them into yarn, I like to call them plarn. Everybody has plastic bags at home, right? You probably have them in different colors from different stores. So the first activity you can do is have your kiddos sort the bags out by color. Then I'll show you how to cut the bags up into plarn. Every plastic bag from the store is kind of made the same way. There's a little seam at the bottom and two handles at the top. If you put your pointer finger into that seam and your other pointer finger under the top of that handle and pull, you can straighten out this folded part on the side of your bag. I'm going to flip it over and do the same thing again. Now I'm going to take my bag and fold it in half. Smush and smooth it. Fold it in half again. Smush and smooth it. Now I'm going to cut off the handles. I don't need that part. And I'm going to cut off the bottom just like I did on the t-shirt because again, there's a seam there. Now, I want to cut this about, you guessed it, 2 fingers wide. 2 fingers wide, I cut. 2 fingers wide, I cut. It doesn't matter if they're not perfect. And by the way, it's really sort of fun to cut through plastic bags. It feels good. It's slippery. So let's pretend now that I had already done an orange bag. So here's the pieces of the orange bag, and here's my blue bag. I want you to see if you can guess from what we've looked at so far today. When I open one of these up, what shape is it going to be? Let's see if you're right. Did you guess circle? Because that is right. It becomes a circle. So you can weave with this just the way it is. Just let it be a double width of plastic and weave it over, under, over, under, over, under. Squish it down and keep going back and forth and switch colors. Or you can put the rings together to make something called plarn. This is for big kids. Now, let me tell you, grown-ups, I have had middle school kids sit and do this for a very long time, and they love to weave. So this weaving is really for all ages. Let's take 2 rings, and I'm going to put this ring through this ring and hold it at both ends. Do you see that? Okay. Now I'm going to reach through this end to grab this end, and I'm going to pull it kind of gently. And now my 2 rings are stuck together. Watch again. I'm going to use 2 different colors because I think it's easier for you to see. So I'm going to push this orange ring right through the blue ring. Then I'm going to reach for the other end of the orange ring and pull it. And I pull my blue, and that happens sometimes with plarn. It's thin. Sometimes it breaks. You know what? You can throw that one away, cut it off, or just tie a knot, and it's not really going to matter. Get it? Tie a knot? Not? Okay, never mind. But trust me, in your finished weaving, it's not going to matter if there's a little knot smushed in there. Now, the cool thing about weaving with plastic bags is because it takes forever for plastic to biodegrade in our environment, you can hang these weavings outside and the colors will stay vibrant and they'll last a long time even if they get wet. So that's how you can cut a plastic bag apart and make plarn. Okay, folks, let's review everything we talked about today. We'll go backwards. So there's weaving with plarn, making plastic bag weavings like this one. Remember, that's what it looks like in our loom. Then there's cutting up t-shirts and weaving with t-shirt yarn, which can be a really fun recycled way to weave. Then there's finding things in nature, like a stick, to weave on. And then there's just making simple cardboard looms and weaving with paper. When you're done with your weaving, you can, I don't know why I left this extra part on top. It seemed like a good handle, but now I could cut that apart. I could mount that on another color paper and make it a work of art. I could tape these ends together to keep everything in there. That's my simple paper weaving. And before we go, I'll show you how you can weave together. If you make a much bigger loom, everybody can collaborate, that's one of my favorite words, or work together. Yeah, this is a loom I bought in a store, that's true, but now that I've shown you how to make a cardboard loom, if you have a bigger box or a bigger piece of cardboard, you can make a bigger loom and you can have kiddos weave together. One kid weaves one color, the next kid picks what color gets to go on next. This was woven at the Sharpsburg Community Library. I had different friends weave different rows of it. And then I got fancy and started putting fringes and stuff on it. Look at this. This was a dried out flower from my yard, and I stuck that in my weaving too by weaving its stem over, under, over, under. Remember, as long as you can say those 2 words and you can practice that over, under, you're going to be able to weave. And I guarantee you're going to make some fun and beautiful stuff. Use your imagination. Maybe you can find other stuff around the house to weave with. But whatever you do, have fun.